The call came in while I was in the middle of a briefing, not some casual catch-up. This was a closed-door session with 3 officers and a civilian contractor, going over updates to a medical monitoring system we were rolling out across multiple bases. Phones stayed face down. Nobody interrupted unless it mattered. My phone buzzed once. I ignored it. Again and again. I glanced at the screen. Brittany. I let it ring. 30 seconds later, it buzzed again. Same name. That was unusual. Brittany didn't call unless she needed something or wanted something. I excused myself, stepped into the hallway, and answered. Her voice came fast, like she'd been waiting. Finally, I've been calling you. I'm at work, I said. What's going on? It's about Christmas. Trouble already. What about it? She paused, picking her words lazily. Look, don't make this a thing, okay? I just need you to not come this year. I didn't respond immediately. I leaned against the wall, watching a couple of junior officers pass. Not come, I repeated. Yeah, just skip it. It's not a big deal. Brittany, it's Christmas. I know, she snapped. Then her tone softened, just enough to sound reasonable. It's just Kevin's coming. There it was. Okay, I said. And he's important, she added. He works with military hospitals, consulting with DoD programs. He's kind of a big deal. I let that sit, and me being there is a problem, because... Another pause. Shorter this time. Because you don't exactly know how to present yourself. I almost smiled. Present myself. You know what I mean? You're always so serious. You don't talk much. You don't fit in with that crowd. That crowd. Kevin's used to people who have their lives together. Doctors, specialists, people who actually built something. That part was interesting. I see. I just don't want anything awkward. I've told him a lot about our family, she said. I want everything to match. Clean, normal, no weird vibes. No weird vibes, I repeated. Yeah, so let me make sure I understand. You want me to skip Christmas because I don't fit the image you've built. It's not about you, she said immediately. It's about the situation. That usually means it's about you. Look, your life's a mess right now. Okay, she cut in. You don't even try to make it look like you're doing well. You barely talk about your job. You're always busy with whatever it is you do. It just doesn't look good. There it was. Clean, direct. Your life's a mess. I pushed off the wall and walked a few steps down the hallway just to move. And you think me showing up would embarrass you? I didn't say embarrass. You said it without saying it. She didn't deny it. You're making this dramatic, she said. I'm just asking for one holiday. That's it. Next year, whatever. We can all hang out. No big deal. Right. And honestly, she added, lowering her voice, it's better for you, too. You won't have to deal with questions about your job or your situation. My situation? That was new. Before I could respond, I heard movement on her end. My mother's voice came through. Honey, are you on the phone with her? Yeah, I got her. Brittany said she's being difficult. Let me talk to her. A shuffle. Then my mom's soft, careful voice. Hi, sweetheart. Hi, Mom. I heard what Brittany said. We just wanted to talk to you about Christmas. Sounds like you already did. A small sigh. We're not trying to hurt you, she said. We just think it might be better if you sit this one out. Just this year. I closed my eyes for a second. Better for who? For everyone, she said. Brittany's excited about this relationship. It's serious. We don't want anything to complicate things. By complicate, you mean me. That's not what I said. It's what you meant. Silence. Then my dad's voice faint in the background. What's she saying? She's upset, Mom answered. Of course. No one corrected anything. No one pushed back on Brittany. No one said that wasn't right. Just quiet. That landed. Not what Brittany said. The silence was new. Okay, I said. Mom paused. Okay, you've made your point. I won't come. There was a shift in her tone. Relief almost. Thank you for understanding. Sure, we'll do something together another time, she added quickly. Just us. No pressure. Of course. Brittany's voice came back. See, that wasn't so hard. I didn't respond. Thanks for being cool about it, she said. This just makes everything easier for you, I said. She laughed. Exactly. I ended the call. For a few seconds, I just stood there, phone in hand. Then I went back into the briefing room. No one asked what the call was about. They didn't need to. I picked up right where I left off, walked them through the next phase of the rollout. answered questions, made a few adjustments to the timeline. The meeting wrapped up 40 minutes later. As people started packing, one of the new contractors looked at me. "Ma'am, that system you're pushing, it's going to save a lot of lives." "That's the idea," I said. He nodded. After they left, I went back to my office and closed the door. Not a big office, functional, clean, a desk, a couple chairs, a wall with certifications, deployment photos, a few framed documents most outsiders wouldn't recognize. Nothing screamed impressive. That was fine. I set my phone down and finally looked at it. 3 missed calls. 1 text from Brittany. "Glad you get it." I didn't reply. I pulled up my calendar for the rest of the week. Back-to-back meetings, system reviews, coordination calls with medical teams, and then 3 days after Christmas, one entry that had been sitting there for a while. Consultation, DoD Medical Program, lead Dr. Kevin Park. I stared at the name for a second, then closed the calendar. No reaction, no adjustment, just another meeting. I picked up the folder for the next briefing and got back to work, marking changes on the timeline like nothing had happened. That was the thing about my job. It didn't pause because your family decided you were an inconvenience. Systems had to run. People depended on timely decisions. I stayed focused, adjusted deployment phases, reassigned 2 review checkpoints, flagged a delay in one of the testing units that would have gone unnoticed if someone wasn't paying attention. By the time I looked up again, an hour had passed. No one in that building knew I'd just been uninvited from Christmas by my own family, and even if they did, it wouldn't have changed anything. Out here, nobody cared about holiday plans. They cared if you could do your job. That was the difference. Back home, everything was about appearances. Out here, it was about function. I leaned back in my chair for a second, staring at the wall. A couple framed photos. One from a deployment years ago. Dusty, sun-bleached faces squinting into the camera. Another from a promotion day ceremony. Not a big crowd, just the people who needed to be there. No family had shown up for that one. They said they were busy. I didn't push it. That had been the pattern. They never really asked what I did. Not in a real way. Surface-level questions. "Are you still in Virginia? So what exactly is your job?" Never enough to understand. I didn't explain. Partly because it was complicated. Mostly because they weren't interested. Military meant 2 things to them. Deployed in danger or sitting behind a desk. There wasn't much in between. I wasn't constantly talking about combat zones or dramatic stories. Desk job, stable, quiet, nothing impressive. Meanwhile, Brittany's life was easy to read. Pharmaceutical sales, nice apartment, social circle that made sense, photos that looked good online, no breakdown, no clearance needed. I picked up my phone again, not to text, just to check something. Her profile popped up. New post 20 minutes ago, of course. Soft lighting, clean kitchen, wine glasses, Kevin next to her, arm around her shoulder, smiling like the story was already written. Caption: early Christmas dinner with someone special. Comments stacked. Finally, he looks amazing. You guys are perfect together. Perfect. The word repeated often. Perfect outfit, perfect timing, perfect relationship, perfect image. I scrolled further. Another post earlier that week. New dress, another dinner. Same tone, curated, controlled. I locked the phone, set it face down. She wasn't doing anything unusual, just building the version of her life that made sense. Anything that didn't fit got removed. Simple as that. I stood at the window. The base stretched out below, vehicles moving in and out, people crossing between buildings. Routine didn't care about personal drama. Years in places where routine kept people alive. Afghanistan stripped everything down to what mattered. No one cared how you presented yourself. No one cared what your job sounded like at a party. They cared if you showed up when things went wrong. I remembered one night years ago, a 19-year-old kid, cardiac issue no one caught in time. Vitals fine until they weren't. By the time we realized it, we were already behind. That feeling sticks. The moment right before it when everything looks normal, and it isn't. That's the part that changes how you work, how you think, how you decide what matters. I pushed the memory aside, walked back to my desk, opened my laptop. Work never paused. A message from one of my team leads. "Ma'am, updated data from the pilot site. Send now or wait for tomorrow's review. Send it now." Files started coming in. Charts, reports, field notices, real outcomes. The kind of things my family never asked about. Not because they didn't care. They just didn't value what they couldn't immediately grasp. I stopped trying to make them understand long ago. Easier that way. Cleaner. Less disappointing. I worked through data for the next couple hours, making adjustments, flagging inconsistencies, setting up follow-ups. At some point, I realized I hadn't thought about the call in a while. Not because it didn't matter, because the decision was made. I wasn't going. No argument. No last-minute change. Just done. I closed the last file and leaned back, letting the silence sit. Not anger. Clarity. Something obvious finally lined up. They didn't see me. Not really. For the first time, I wasn't trying to fix that. I reached for my calendar, scrolling through the next days. Meetings, reviews, coordination calls, and then it was there again. December 27th, consultation, DoD Medical Program, lead doctor, Kevin Park. I hovered over the entry. No emotion, just a fact. A meeting scheduled weeks before any of this. A name that now mattered, not for him, but for what he represented. The version of the world Brittany wanted to belong to. The one she thought I didn't fit. I clicked into the meeting details. Time, location, attendees, everything in order. Closed the window, shut my laptop. No changes, no cancellations, just another item on the schedule. That was enough. I reopened the laptop. Full program overview. Not because I needed to, but to reset. Everything made more sense in front of me. Numbers didn't lie. Systems either worked or didn't. You didn't guess your standing. Pilot site, performance reports, cardiac monitoring data, response times, intervention windows. Dry if you didn't know. Life-changing if you did. A flagged case caught my eye. Post-surgical complication. Early signs picked up 6 hours before symptoms. Intervention team alerted ahead of time. Outcome stabilized. 6 hours. That margin doesn't exist unless someone builds it. Leaned forward, reading notes. The system caught a pattern that wouldn't trigger a standard alert. Subtle shifts. Nothing dramatic on the surface. Exactly what gets missed. The same feeling hit again. That moment where everything looks fine until it isn't. We built the program to close that gap. Not to impress. Not to sell. To give people a chance they wouldn't otherwise have. I added a note to the file, flagged it for review, moved on. This part no one at home ever saw. Not the work itself, but the weight of it. The decisions without applause or recognition. Just quiet outcomes that worked or didn't. Brittany wouldn't understand. Not because she wasn't capable, because she'd never needed to. Her world didn't require thinking about consequences that way. If something went wrong, it was inconvenient. If something went wrong here, it stayed with you. I closed the file, leaned back, letting my eyes rest. People hear military, imagine two extremes. Combat zones or paperwork. They don't see the coordination, planning, systems behind the scenes that prevent collapse. They don't see how many people it takes for one decision. And they definitely don't see the responsibility on top of those decisions. I stood, grabbed the folder, flipped through printed materials for the upcoming consultation, program structure, implementation phases, integration points with hospital systems. Everything had to be clear, not simplified clear. There's a difference. Simplify too much, you lose what matters. Be clear, people understand exactly what's at stake. I walked to the whiteboard, outlining the flow. Entry point, system overview, case data, operational impact, then open questions. No wasted time, no filler. That's how we ran it. I capped the marker, stepped back, clean. Direct. Exactly how it needed to be. A knock at the door. Ma'am, come in. Captain Reyes stepped inside, holding a tablet. We just got confirmation from the Walter Reed team. They're finalizing their schedule for the 27th. Any changes? Not on our end. Same time, same lineup. They're bringing in one additional observer, but that's it. I nodded. Good. Keep everything else planned. Yes, ma'am. She hesitated, then added. The lead consultant, Dr. Park, has a strong reputation. He's done extensive work with post-op cardiac monitoring. I've seen his profile. From what I've heard, he's detail-oriented, asks a lot of questions. That's fine. She gave a small nod. We'll be ready. I know. She left, closing the door quietly. I glanced back at the whiteboard. Detail-oriented asks a lot of questions. That usually meant one of two things. Either someone was trying to understand how something actually worked, or they were trying to find its weaknesses. Either way, it didn't change anything. The system would speak for itself. It always did. I sat down and pulled up his file. Basic background. Education, residency, publications, recent work with military-affiliated hospitals. Solid track record. Nothing surprising. No red flags. Just someone good at what he does. That part made things simple. I closed the file and returned to my notes. Outside, the base moved as usual. Vehicles passing through checkpoints. Personnel moving between buildings. Routine that didn't need explanation. Inside, everything stayed controlled. Predictable. You knew what was expected. No guessing. No shifting standards. Just performance. My phone buzzed again. Not Brittany this time. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. If it mattered, they'd leave a message. Most people did. I set the phone down and kept working. An hour passed, then another. By the time I checked the time, the sun was starting to drop. I packed up a few files, stacked neatly on the corner of my desk, and shut everything down. No rush. No lingering. Just the end of another workday. Reaching for my keys, my eyes landed on the calendar again. December 27th. Consultation. DOD. Medical program. Lead Dr. Kevin Park. 3 days. That was all. Not a long wait. Not enough time for anything to change, which was fine. Nothing needed to. I turned off the lights, stepped out of the office, and locked the door. Hallway quieter now. Most people had already left. A couple of enlisted soldiers passed by, nodding as they went. Ma'am, evening. Simple routine. Respect that didn't need to be earned, just understood. I headed toward the exit, weight of the day, settling into something steady. Not heavy. Not light. Just there. The feeling when everything is exactly where it should be. Outside, the air was colder, clear. The kind of cold that wakes you up a little. No matter how long your day's been. I walked across the lot toward my car, keys in hand, already thinking through the next day's schedule. Same structure, same priorities, no surprises. I sat in the driver's seat for a moment before starting the engine, going over the meeting details in my head without even trying. Same time, same room, same objective. Nothing complicated about it. Still, seeing his name there had shifted the whole thing. Not the meeting itself, just the context around it. I started the car, merging into the slow stream of traffic leaving the base. Headlights stretched ahead in a steady line. Everyone heading back to whatever version of normal they had waiting. For me, that meant a quiet apartment, a couple of unread reports, and a calendar that didn't leave much room for anything else. Exactly how I liked it. By the time I got home, it was dark. I dropped my bag by the door, loosened the collar of my uniform, headed straight for the kitchen. Nothing fancy, something quick, something that didn't require thinking. TV stayed off, silence worked better. I sat at the small table near the window, plate in front of me, phone off to the side. No notifications worth checking, no messages that mattered. That part didn't bother me. What stuck was how easy it had been for them to decide I didn't belong there. Not a long discussion, not a back and forth, just a quick call, a decision made without me, and that was that. I finished eating, cleaned up, walked back to the living room, picking up the folder I'd brought home. I didn't need to review it again, but habits don't turn off just because the workday ends. I flipped through the pages anyway. Program structure, integration phases, expected outcomes. Everything lined up, everything ready. Kevin Park was just another name on that list. At least, that's how I treated it. No adjustments, no special preparation, because the moment you start changing things for one person, you're no longer running a system, you're reacting. Reacting leads to mistakes. I wasn't going to do that. I set the folder down and leaned back, letting the room settle into that quiet rhythm I was used to. No distractions, no noise, just space to think. For a second, I let my mind return to the call. Not the words, the tone, the certainty. Brittany hadn't hesitated. She didn't sound unsure. She didn't sound like she was asking. She sounded like she was correcting, removing me from the situation to make everything work better. She wasn't worried about how I'd react. She already knew or thought she did. I picked up my phone again, not to call her, just to check something. Kevin's name, public information, articles, mentions, professional profiles. He showed up exactly where expected. Publications, interviews, conference appearances, nothing exaggerated, nothing flashy, just consistent. That part I respected. People who are good at what they do just show up, no over-explaining. I scrolled further, photos from events, panels, hospital settings. One from a couple of weeks ago. Same one Brittany reposted. Dinner. Same outfit. Same expression. Everything lined up. That made things simpler. I locked the phone and set it down. No surprises. The only variable was how Brittany had presented everything. What she'd said, what she hadn't, what she expected when those versions met. I stood at the window, the city quiet at this hour, a few lights still on in neighboring buildings, most shut down. Normal rhythm. Predictable. That word again. In my world, good. In hers, probably not. She liked things shaped, adjusted, improved on the surface, measured, flexible. This wasn't that kind of situation. I returned to the desk, opened the laptop again, pulling up the full attendee list for the meeting. Names I recognized, a few I didn't. Roles clearly defined. Everyone there for a reason. No one extra. No room for improvisation. Intentional. Every person would contribute or observe. Nothing in between. I scanned Kevin's role again. Lead consultant. That meant questions, pushing on weak points, looking for gaps. Good. The system held up under pressure. It held up anywhere. If it didn't, I needed to know. I closed the laptop and let myself step away. No more reviewing, no more scenarios. Everything that needed doing was done. The rest would unfold as intended. The room was already prepared before anyone else arrived. Screens tested, files loaded, seating arranged exactly as needed. No guesswork, no adjustments once people walked in. By 800 hours, the building was fully active. The quiet of Christmas had disappeared overnight, replaced by the normal pace, controlled, steady, predictable. I walked back to my office, set my folder down, and pulled up the final schedule. Arrival window 9:30. Security check at the gate. Escort to the main building. Briefing at 10:00. Everything timed to the minute. That wasn't overkill. That was standard. A knock at the door. "Ma'am, come in." Reyes stepped in, tablet in hand. Visitor team just cleared the gate. On schedule. Any issues? None reported. Good. Escort team's bringing them in now. I nodded. "Let me know when they're in the building." "Yes, ma'am." She left. No need for me to follow. Part of leadership is knowing when to step in and when to let the system run. This was one of those moments. I stayed, reviewing notes I'd already gone through twice. Not to memorize anything. Repetition sharpens focus. Today wasn't for distractions. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. Reyes again. They're in the building. Understood. I stood, adjusted my jacket, and settled into that familiar mindset. Clear, direct, nothing personal, just the job. I stepped into the hallway, movement steady. Enlisted personnel passed, nodding, greeting. "Ma'am, morning." Routine didn't change because something unusual was about to happen. That was the point. Escort team reached the door first. 2 officers leading, 3 visitors behind. I could tell who was who from a distance. First, older, composed, likely administrative lead. Second, mid-40s, observant, part of the evaluation team. And then him, Kevin. Same posture, controlled confidence. No hesitation. From his perspective, just another consultation, another system to review, another meeting on a schedule. I stopped a few feet short of the briefing room entrance, waiting. No rush. No interception. Reyes greeted them at the door. "Good morning, welcome. We'll get started shortly." Professional, efficient. Kevin nodded, scanning the space briefly, evaluating, observing. Reyes gestured toward the room. "You can head inside. We'll begin in a few minutes." They stepped in. I stayed where I was, not hidden, just unannounced. Timing mattered. You don't walk in early. You don't create unnecessary movement. You enter when it counts. I took a breath, pushed the door open, stepped inside. The room quieted slightly. Everyone looked up. Reyes straightened slightly. "Ma'am." That was all it took. Tone shifted. Not because of anything I said, but because of what that word meant. Kevin's attention moved to me. At first, a glance, processing, placing. Then a pause, long enough to recognize something. Not fully, not yet, but enough to register this wasn't what he expected. I walked to the front, set my folder down, looked over the group. No reaction. No acknowledgement outside the context of the meeting. "Good morning," I said. Calm, neutral, standard. Reyes stepped to the side. "This is Lieutenant Colonel Carter. She leads the program. No emphasis. No build-up. That was enough. Kevin didn't move. Immediately, his expression didn't change dramatically, but the shift was there. Subtle, controlled, only noticeable if you were looking. He knew the name. Not from this setting. From somewhere else. He hadn't connected it yet. I didn't give him time. Let's get started. I gestured toward the screen. Lights dimmed slightly. Presentation up. Structure replaced distraction. This was the part I controlled. Introduction. Overview. System objectives. Everything delivered the same as always. Clear. Direct. No extra explanation. No hesitation. Kevin sat still, eyes forward, attention shifting back to me, aligning what he saw with something that didn't quite match. Fine. He'd figure it out. Everyone does eventually. I moved to the next section. Data points, case outcomes, operational, improvements, each backed by something real. No theory, no projections, results, room stayed quiet, no interruptions, no side conversations, focus. Standard. 20 minutes in, I opened the floor for questions. The older man spoke first. Clarifications, timeline, implementation scale. Straightforward. The second, technical integration concerns. Handled. Then Kevin. He didn't rush. Waited a second longer than the others. Leaned forward slightly. When you say early detection thresholds, what margin before clinical symptoms typically appear? Detail-oriented, just like Reyes said. On average, 4 to 6 hours, I answered, depending on condition and data consistency. He nodded slowly, processing, comparing against what he knew. Do you have case-specific breakdowns? We do. I tapped the screen. Next slides. Real cases, real timelines, no gaps, no guesswork. Data appeared. His attention locked. Confusion competed with professional interest. That tends to win, at least for a while. I continued the presentation, steady pace. No deviation. No acknowledgement of anything outside that room. In here, nothing else mattered. Not Christmas. Not Brittany. Not what had been said. Just the system. Just the work. Just the fact that for the first time, he was in a place where outside narratives didn't apply. I tapped the next slide. Case timelines. Clean charts. Timestamps. Intervention windows. No filler. Evidence. Pilot site in Texas. Post-op cardiac patient. Initial vitals stable. No. Immediate red flags. Data sat on the screen. 6 hours later, system flagged a pattern change. Not enough to trigger a standard alert. Enough to escalate internally. Intervention team stepped in early. Outcome stabilized. No escalation. No reaction from most of the room. Kevin, however, watched differently. Tracking. Comparing. Lining up what he knew with what he was seeing. That's usually when people shift from polite interest to actual attention. I moved through the next case. Different locations, same pattern. Early detection, narrow margins, better outcomes. No exaggeration. No inflated claims. Just results. When I paused, Kevin spoke again. You're running this across multiple sites already, yes? How many active locations? 12? Expanding to 20 by next quarter? Nodded. Standardized across all? That's the goal. Slight pause. Hesitation not from me, from him. Something still didn't fit. Fine. People catch up in layers. I stepped back slightly. Let's take a short break. 5 minutes. Chairs shifted. Quiet conversation. Nothing loud. Professional. Kevin didn't stand right away. Stayed seated slightly longer than others, then pushed his chair back, walking toward me. Not toward exit, toward me. Papers gathered. Close enough for a private conversation, not attention drawing. Can I ask you something? Direct. No small talk. Go ahead. He glanced briefly at the room, then back at me. You're Brittany's sister. Not a question, a statement. I didn't react. Yes. No explanation. No build-up. He exhaled slightly, holding the thought in place, letting it land. She told me you worked in administration. Something low level. I let that sit. She said a lot. His expression tightened slightly. And she said you weren't coming to Christmas because you had to work. I did have work. That's not what I meant, I said. I know. He looked at me, piecing together the two versions. Eyes briefly to the wall. Framed documents, insignia. Details meaningless until suddenly meaningful. Back to me. Confusion replaced by clarity. She said your life was complicated, he added. I almost smiled. That's one way to put it. He didn't smile. Why didn't you say anything? About what? About this. He gestured lightly, Office, setup, everything. I didn't answer, not because I needed time, because the answer wasn't complicated. Not relevant. To her, maybe not, he said, calmly. You came to evaluate a system. That's what matters in this room. He held my gaze, then nodded. Understood. Not just words. Boundary. Personal didn't belong here unless I allowed it. He agreed. A brief pause. Quieter, to himself. She didn't tell me any of this. I didn't respond. Didn't need to. He already knew. Reyes called from across the room. We're ready to resume. I nodded. Kevin returned to his seat. Room settled. Conversation stopped. Chairs aligned. Focus snapped back. I moved to the front. Next section loaded. Integration protocols. System connections. Adaptation points. No assumptions, no shortcuts. Kevin asked more questions. Sharper, precise, fully engaged. That shift mattered. What he just realized wasn't overriding his judgment. It was refining it. Difference between reacting and adjusting. We moved through the rest without interruption. No one rushed. No dragging, steady progress. At the end, I closed the presentation. Any final questions? Older consultant. None. Second consultant. None. Kevin paused, glanced once at the screen, then back at me. No, I'm good. Not casual, not dismissive. Certain. All right. Follow up with next steps once your team completes review. Chairs shifted. Papers gathered. Meeting ended as it started. Clean. Controlled. No extra noise. People filed out. Reyes stayed. Gave a quick nod, then left. Kevin lingered. Waited until room cleared. Walked back toward me. No hesitation. No uncertainty. Focus. Understanding of his position shifted. I stacked remaining papers, slid them into the folder. No rush. No change in pace. Meeting concluded. I returned to my desk, pulled up next item on schedule. Emails, follow-ups, same workflow. Outside, everything continued as normal. Inside, nothing changed that affected the work. Only that mattered. I typed a quick summary for Reyes. Confirmed next steps, timelines, clear, direct. No extra commentary. A few minutes later, light knock. How'd it go? Smooth, I said. Any issues? None. She nodded, satisfied. Lead consultant. He asked more questions toward the end. Good questions. Small smile. Always a good sign. It is. She turned to leave. Ma'am, whatever you built here, it's making a difference. I looked at her. I know. Nodded once. She stepped out. Door closed. Quiet settled. Steady. Everything in place. I reached for my phone. No new messages. No missed calls. Nothing from home. That stayed the same. For once, it didn't need to change. I set it down, opened next report. 10 minutes. Everything the same. Emails, data, routine. Then the phone buzzed. Ignored. Again and again. Glanced at screen. Brittany. Let it ring. Stopped. Then a message. Call me now. Didn't. Another followed almost immediately. What did you say to him? I leaned back. Not what happened. Not. Is everything okay? Straight accusation. That tracked. Went back to the report. 2 minutes later, phone rang again. Same name. Same urgency. I picked it up. Not because I felt like talking, but because letting it ring would be more disruptive than ending it quickly. What is it? Her voice fast. Sharper. What did you do? Nothing. Don't do that, she snapped. He just called me out of nowhere, asking questions, saying things that don't make sense. Sounds like something you should talk to him about. I am talking to him, she said. I'm talking to you too. What did you tell him? The truth. Silence. Then louder. What truth? That I run the program he came to evaluate. Pause. That's not... She started, then stopped. No, that's not what he said. You should listen carefully. Breathing shifted. You're twisting this. You're trying to make me look bad. I didn't have to. You think this is funny? She asked. No. Because he's questioning everything now, she continued. Everything I told him about you, about our family. That sounds uncomfortable. You're doing this on purpose, she said. You waited for this. You wanted this moment. I looked at the screen, still open to the report. No. I showed up to work. That's not the same thing. It is, for me, she exhaled sharply. You could have said something. You could have warned me. About what? About this? About what you actually do. About your rank. About everything. You never asked. I shouldn't have to ask, she snapped. You're my sister. That goes both ways. Silence. Then, you knew how important this was to me. Tone softer, controlled. You knew I was trying to build something serious with him. I didn't interfere. You did by not telling him the truth, she said. You made me look like I was lying. You were. That ended the soft tone. You don't get to judge me when you hide everything about your life. I don't hide it, I said. I just don't explain it to people who don't care to understand. I care, she insisted. No, I said you care about appearances. She didn't respond. Immediately. You always do this. You make everything about being right instead of helping. Helping how? By supporting me, she said. By not making things harder. I didn't make anything harder. I didn't change anything. The situation changed when reality didn't match what you told him. That's your fault, she said. No, it's not. Her voice tightened. You think you're better than me now? She said. I didn't say that. You don't have to, she shot back. It's obvious. I didn't answer. Conversation reached the point. Logic didn't matter. She filled the silence. He's rethinking everything. Do you understand that? Everything. Yes. And you're just okay with that. I'm not involved in it. You are, she said. You're the reason it's happening. I'm the reason the truth exists. I said, not the reason it's a problem. That hit harder. No. Immediate response. Just breathing. Quieter, sharper. You always do this. Do what? You act like you're above it, she said. Like none of this affects you. I glanced at the desk. It doesn't affect my job, I said. That's not what I mean. I know. Another pause. More controlled. He's coming over tonight. We're going to talk. That makes sense. And if this falls apart, that's on you. I didn't respond. She waited, then hung up, line quiet. I set it down, looked at the screen. Same report. Same numbers. Nothing had changed. I picked up where I left off. Same pace. Same focus. A few minutes later, another notification. Brittany. One line. He's not coming back. No explanation. No blame, no follow-up. Read it once. Locked the screen. No reply. Nothing to add. I leaned back. Silence. Not heavy. Not empty. Clear. Outside. The base moved as always. People walking past. Doors opening and closing. Routine holding everything in place. Inside. Nothing unfinished. No loose ends. No unresolved questions. Just a line finally drawn where it should have been a long time ago. I turned back to the screen. Continued working. Exactly where I belonged. No second call from her that day. Not the next. That was fine. For the first time, things felt settled. Not fixed. Not perfect. Just clear. I used to think respect came from explaining yourself until people finally understood. Until they saw differently. That's not how it works. People decide how they see you long before they know you. Sometimes they only change when reality forces them to. Not because you argued. Not because you proved anything. Just because they can't ignore it anymore. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't prove a point. I didn't need revenge. All I did was show up where I was supposed to be and let the truth do the rest. That was enough. If this story hits too close to home, if you've ever been judged, dismissed, underestimated by your own family, you already understand. These family dramas, quiet comebacks, they aren't about getting even. They're about knowing your worth before anyone else does.